Okay, so continuing where we left off. So this is the last stage that we have at the end of the video, the last video. So obviously the head still needs to be tweaked a little bit more, but for today, right, we're going to jump over to the body section. And one of the parts of the character, right, that is a bit challenging for beginners to model would be the hand. Now, since this is a stylized character, we will not be modeling a super realistic or anatomically correct hand, but still it has to be based on the anatomical design of an actual hand itself. So before we actually start to do the modeling, let's go over online to take a look at some examples. The hands that we will probably be modeling will be somewhat akin to this type of hands, but like all hands, right, it still has to follow a certain structure. Now, there are several ways that you can approach it. You can start off with a very low resolution blocky model and then gradually add the details. All right, that will work. And I have a very old video which I did quite a while ago using another software, but basically the techniques, right, that I'll be doing for the hand, right, will be pretty much close to this one. Okay, so the way I'm going to approach it is I will model the hand, right, which is in a relaxed pose. Okay, so let's jump back to the drawing itself. You can see over here the reference. Okay, the arms is slightly raised. So if you were to put your arms down in a very relaxed pose, okay, that is what your hand in the slightly open and relaxed pose. That will be a best pose, right? That will be good for rigging later on. So we will be trying to model in that stage. However, for if you want to make your rigging even easier, you might have to model the hands sticking out much flatter. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with just a simple cube, and I will just scale the cube, right, to match the output of this arm here. You can see that right now the amount of geometry, let's go to level 1, the amount of geometry on this arm is still very low, but we'll try our best to create the arm, and then we'll stick the, or rather create the hand and stick it to the opening here. So I'll start off by creating a cube, and we will name this cube the hand. So I'm going to move the cube up until it is roughly the same position as the wrist area. So I'm going to switch over this to the front view and just stick it out like that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to create the hand, right, completely flat and sticking out, and then I will manipulate them later. Okay, so I'm going to rename this cube. I'm going to call this would be the left hand, and I'm going to change the shape a little bit. I'm going to jump over to the top view, and I will just you can in fact just look at your own hand, and then you can try to reshape this so that you will notice that your hand, right, the fingers will be coming out from an angle like that. I'll just reshape the angle of the cube by moving the vertices so it looks like that, and then basically the thumb will come out from this side here. Alright, so now we have this basic palm shape. We want to squeeze in edit mode, select all the vertices, and then just flatten everything down slightly. Right. And from the wrist side area here, we're just going to thicken it up a little bit. Right. And then we're going to use the wedge tool. Alright, and then we're just going to create another extra face sticking out. We are not going to extrude it out, we're just going to wedge it out. So I'm going to just go to multi-selection mode, select this face, and shift select this edge. So remember, for wedge to work, you need to select the face and the edge, then shift right mouse click, and then wedge the face. Alright, so we don't need to wedge so much. We're going to reduce the angle, and then we're just going to use 1 divisions. So this area here will become the basis for our thumb. So we're going to go back to our top view again, and I'm just going to reshape this vertex down like that. So later, we will now have enough faces, right, to pull out the thumb. Okay, so depending on how many fingers you want to create, for me, I'm going to create a total of five fingers, so 4 fingers and 1 thumb. So I'm going to divide this into 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to divide this section here into 3 subdivisions. Let me just increase the shape, the view here, so we guys can see a little bit clearer. So we're going to subdivide this into 3 parts, 3 equal parts. So I'm going to use the insert edge loop tool rather than the multi-cut tool. So we're going to switch over to the edge mode and go over to insert edge loop tool, and then under the insert edge loop tool options, I'm going to change it to multiple edge loops, and I'm going to slice this. It says 2 edge loops, so 1, 2, 3 is not enough. I want to make 3 edge loops, so that when I click on it, it will create 3 equal edge loops. So right now I will have 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers which can push out, and then of course the thumb. So right now I have this shape, and I can start to extrude out to form the thumb. Now for the thumb itself, if you hold up your left hand and then you look at the thumb on your side, you'll notice that the thumb goes down a little bit more. So I'm going to grab this face here, or actually grab this edge here, and then I'm just going to pull it down slightly. Alright, so our thumb will actually come out at a slightly more relaxed angle. So I'm going to select this face in face selection mode, then holding down the shift, and then we can easily extrude out one section. And then press R to go to scale and scale it down slightly. And then press W again to move. And then just extrude out another section by pulling out in all axes. Then press R and then just scale it down. Okay. So you can see that because of me moving in this weird angle, we ended up with quite a collapsed shape. So I'm going to reshape this a little bit by moving the vertices to give it a little bit more volume. Or in this case, I'm going to select this edge loop, and then just from my point of view, just move it into a correct angle. And you can see that our thumb, the volume is a little bit off. So I will just change it to this angle, go to vertex, and then just reshape the thumb a little bit, the cross section of thumb. Okay, so now we have a basic thumb. Right, so now what about the fingers, the rest of the fingers? So if you take a look, if you look, again, if you hold up your left hand and you look up, you notice that the fingers do not come out in a straight parallel line. In fact, it comes out more in a circular fashion. If I draw it out for you, you notice that the fingers of a hand, comes out like that. So what we're going to do is we are going to move these vertices up a little bit so that it form a natural curve like that. I think I'm using my own hand as an example. So the 3 sections here are much closer together like that. And then the tiny finger will be rounded off like this. So now we have the basic roughed out shape. We can make one finger first. Yes, we can make one finger first. And if you look at the length of the finger, actually technically the length of each finger, if you go and measure it, the 3 middle fingers here, from here, are actually about the same length. And the reason why they look different in length is because the positioning of the root here, okay, the root section here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create the middle finger first. Okay, it's going to look very root later on, but we're just going to create one finger, and we're going to duplicate that finger and then stick it to these 2 here. And then for the last finger, we will duplicate it as well, and then stick it to the last finger, but scale it down ever so slightly. Alright, so to create the finger, we just need, if you look at your finger, it's made up of 1, 2, 3 joints. So I'm just going to, holding down the shift and then extrude out one section. Okay, and then I'm just going to taper it down ever so slightly, and then press W again. And this time I'm going to change my point of view. I'm going to rotate it down slightly. Remember, we want to create a slightly relaxed pose for the finger. And we're going to use extrude this time. Okay, because, well, you can still use move. Okay, if you're in the correct view, you can use move. But we're going to use extrude because extrude, we can move it in the normal of the face, the normal orientation of the face. Okay, so we can grab the side here and we can rotate it slightly. And also we can move this down by using the move tool. Then repeat command, shift right mouse click and extrude, and we're going to use the blue arrow, which is the Z axis, to create the fingertip, and I'm going to use scale, and then just scale it down slightly. All right. So now we have one finger. All right. So before we add any more details, what we're going to do is we're going to extract all these faces, and we're going to duplicate them and link it to these faces here. So I'm going to first get rid of these faces. All right. You can delete them. Okay, in some other techniques, right, they will extrude all the fingers at the same time. But I think I will actually end up spending a lot of time, right, tweaking every individual finger. So what I'll do is here, I will refine one finger first. Then after that, right, I will duplicate the finger and then just stick it to the rest of the holes. Okay, so I want to create a nice finger shape first. Okay, so next, I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, I find it a little bit faster to just duplicate this. So hold down the shift and then duplicate to clone in object mode. And I'm going to select the finger only. So if you just want to select only the fingers, you just select one of the face at the tip first. Then you hold down the shift and full stop to increase the selection until the entire finger faces are selected. Then you can press Ctrl, Shift and I to invert the selection. Or you can go to select invert and then delete it away. So now we have created our finger. So the extra finger. Now I want to move the pivot point of the finger to the edge here. So I'm going to press D. Okay, and then I'm going to orient it to the selection here. So I'm going to orient it to this edge. Okay, let's align. I actually should be using align, not orient. Let's see. Okay, I need to press the correct combination. Okay, the orient is correct, but I actually want it to snap to that location. So I'm going to use another method. I'm going to hold on to V for V snap. I'm going to snap it to one of the vertices, and then I'm just going to move it right about here and right about the center here. Okay, so basically I want it to orient it to this empty space here. Then press D to get out. Okay, so now I can take this duplicate and I can move it to the location where I want the second finger to be, or rather the index finger. So going to the top view, I'm just going to align the finger. I'm going to splay it out. Splaying is to rotate this out slightly like that. And then just position it correctly like this. Then you can go to the right view, or sorry, the front view, and then press number 4 to go to wireframe. And just make sure that it's all lined up. Okay, so now we have the finger lined up, and we can also use the scale. We can actually scale this shorter a little bit. We can use the Z scale to scale it shorter a little bit. Okay, but remember we need to freeze the transformation later on. Okay, right now we created this finger. I'm going to duplicate this finger to the other empty joint here. So holding down the shift again, and then you can clone another finger. And we can rotate it and align it. Alright, I find this method of creating fingers much faster. Alright. And after that, we will merge everything together and then stitch or weld the vertices together. Okay, finally we reach to the smaller one, the smaller little finger. So we just duplicate another one. And this little finger is scaled down slightly. So we can scale it down a little bit. Then again, we go to the top view. And switching over to rotate, we're going to splay out also slightly, not too much. And going over to vertex mode, we're going to align the vertices until they stick. Alright, so the next part is quite straightforward. We just need to snap the vertex, right? Snap the vertex right to the palm vertices, the openings. So holding down the V to V snap, you just grab and move and snap them into place. You're gonna V snap them into place. Holding down the V and snap. So go to vertex. For this one, holding down the V and snap it into place. Okay, and this one here, go to vertex mode, holding down the V and snap. Holding down the V, drag, and it will snap into place. Holding down the V and snap into place. You can use your cursor key to change the vertices. And that's it. We have snapped into place. But remember, these clone fingers are still separate objects. And also, we need to freeze the transformation. So let's go and freeze the transformation. So select the finger. We're going to freeze the transformation so that scale and everything is reset to the correct size. Including the cube itself. I'm going to just freeze transformation and everything. Alright, so now we can select all of them. And then we can say mesh combine. So now they're combined together, but yet they are still not merged together. Alright, these vertices are still separate. So because if I press number 3 to subdivide this, you can see that there are gaps there because we have not merged the joints together yet. So we're going to press number 1 and I'm going to select all the vertices, okay, especially the vertices around the joint area. Right, so now all these are selected. And in my heads-up display, the polygon display, now there are 49 vertices selected. After I apply a merge, right, the number should go down. So shift, right mouse click, merge vertices, and then we're going to apply merge. And yep, now it went down to 38. So to check whether you have merged properly, you can press number 3 to subdivide, and then you should see everything is merged properly. And then we have a basic hand created. Now, of course, this is not the end of it. We still have to join this to the wrist here, and we have to do some reflow of the topology, otherwise it will not match the hand. So first is we need to open up the wrist by selecting the base faces of the hand here and delete them away. And we have to figure out a way, right, to reflow the vertices or reflow the number of geometry, right, so that it matches the number of geometry here. So obviously for the body itself, we can still add a few more geometry, right, to round it off a little. And then after that, right, we can make the hand, the number of geometry on the hand to match so that we can stitch the hand's wrist to the arm itself. Okay, to the end of the arm. So for the arms, for the body, right, I'm going to select this face and I'm going to delete this. Then we go and select this hand. I'm just going to push it further a little bit. And I'm just going to reshape and probably extend the loop face here. I'm going to select this loop, this open loop here. Holding down the shift, I'm going to extrude one section here like that. And I will, normally if you look at your wrist, it actually has more or less this kind of shape here, right? But I think usually the top part here, right, will go up a little bit. And we can count, okay, here we can count the number of edges that we have. Okay, let me go to level 1. And if I run this around in my heads-up display, it says that I have 10 edges. So I have to make sure that I also have around 10 edges here. So right now we only have about 4 edges. So there are some of the edges, right, we can use a reflow technique. Okay, basically we merge 2 edges together to reduce the number of edges. Okay, so for example, let's see, I'm going to select these 2 edges here and I want to collapse them together. Okay, so I'm going to collapse the edges, merge to center, so it becomes like that. I'm going to do the same for the bottom, select these 2 edges, press G to repeat last command. So right now I've effectively reduced the number of edges. Okay, if you remember the Fox tutorial from a long time ago when you did a 3DM, now I have reduced the number of edges in the opening here to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 edges. So 6 edges to combine to this is not much of a problem. All I need to do is right now to increase this number to 6 edges is to just increase one edge loop here. I'll just insert one edge loop here, I'll insert one here, and insert one here. And actually no, I made a mistake, let me undo that. I want to insert one above and below. Okay, so that you match the orientation here. So how many edges do I have right now? I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Exactly the same 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And to finish my reflow, I'm going to select this edge here, Control Delete to dissolve it, Control Delete, to dissolve it so that we have everything four-sided. Alright, so now we can do our stitching from the hand to the end of the arm. So I'm going to go to object mode, just move this closer, as close as I can. And let's go to the front view. And I'm going to rotate my hand slightly. And then I can stitch it. Okay, I'm going to scale it up a little bit. So if I scale this up, I will have to go and freeze the transformation again. And I'm going to select these group of vertices over here and just scale it up slightly. Okay, we can tweak this later on. But right now we have a good number of vertices that we can join. So I'm going to just select the end of the arm here, the opening, and then using the snap tool to snap again, snap them into place. And right now we are ready to join the two objects together. So I'm going to select this object and this object, and then since we have a mirror instance here, once I merge them, this instance will disappear. But not a big deal. We can now combine them, these two objects together. So now the instance has disappeared, and we can apply a duplicate special again. Now, but take note that the pivot point or the center point of these two combined objects has also changed. So let me just delete away the history, okay? And we are going to change the pivot point to the center. So we're going to go to front view, press D to go to pivot manipulation mode, holding down to your X key, right, and then drag the center until it is right over here. Okay, let me undo that. I think I've accidentally changed the orientation. So holding down to X, and then I will drag this arrow until it is right in the center. It should be snapping to the grid. I don't know why it's not. Okay, I'm going to orient it here. I'm going to reset the orientation, pivot orientation. Let me undo that. I'm going to reset the orientation, not the position. Reset the pivot orientation. Yes. So holding down the X, then I can move the pivot point right in the center line here. Then I can press D to get out of pivot manipulation. Then I can finally duplicate special. Make sure that it's instance, scale at -1 and duplicate. So right now I can continue to model one side of the arm, and then the rest should still follow. If I press number 3 right now, you can see that she has a relatively low resolution hand, which the details which I can add in later, but this is decent enough for first blocking purposes. Okay, so before I go further, I don't want the video to be too long, so I will stop the video for now,